Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if the single biggest difference between success and struggle is hidden in your daily habits? What if the life you're dreaming of isn't waiting in the distant future, but in the decision you make today? And what if that decision is simply this: to educate yourself daily? Everything changes when you change, and real change begins the moment you decide to invest in yourself. Not once in a while, but every single day. It's the moment you say to yourself, I will read, I will study, I will grow. That decision, simple as it may sound, has the power to completely transform your future. I was raised on a small farm in Idaho. We didn't have much. My father never finished high school. We worked hard, sun up to sundown. But even with all that effort, we struggled financially. And as a kid, I couldn't help but wonder, why do some people thrive while others continue to struggle, even when both work hard? That one question sent me on a lifelong journey of discovery. And what I found changed everything. Here's what I discovered. Success leaves clues. Those who succeed aren't just lucky. They're not chosen. They've educated themselves. They've developed themselves. They've made a consistent habit of investing in who they are and who they can become. Let me share something powerful with you. Education isn't just a tool to prepare for life. It is life. It's not something that merely sets you up for the future. It shapes your future day by day, decision by decision. Most people don't realize the enormous capacity we each have, just waiting to be activated the moment we commit to mastering one specific area of our lives. But here's the truth. If you want to have more, you must become more. Don't wish things were easier. Wish you were better. Don't hope for fewer problems. Hope for stronger skills. Don't long for less challenge. Long for more wisdom. That's where daily education steps in. Let me tell you a quick story. Years ago, I met a young man who was frustrated about his salary. He said to me, I'm not being paid what I'm worth. So I asked him, how many books on your profession have you read in the last year? He paused and replied, none. Why should I? The company doesn't buy them for me. Now, can you spot the flaw in that thinking? He was still seeing himself as an employee, waiting for someone else to invest in him. Still thinking small, still waiting for external permission instead of taking charge of his own life and growth. So I told him something simple, but life-changing. Don't expect to be paid for your time. Be paid for the value you bring. And if you want to bring more value, you must pursue more education. 6 months later, that same young man made a different choice. He began reading one book a week related to his profession. And as the pages turned, something else began to shift: his income. Within just 2 years, it had doubled. Not because the company changed. Not because the economy suddenly improved. It was because he changed. That's the power of self-education. You see, formal education might help you earn a living, but self-education, that's what builds a fortune. The books you don't read can't help you. It's as simple as that. Knowledge is sitting on a shelf, does nothing unless you reach for it. Now some people push back. They say, well, sure, but books cost money. And I always respond the same way. Yes, but ignorance costs far more. Listen closely, because this next idea could define your future. The difference between where you are right now and where you'll be 5 years from now will come down to two simple things: the people you meet and the books you read. That's it. Your future will be shaped by the relationships you build and the information you choose to allow into your mind. And here's something else worth remembering. You can learn from anyone. Successful people are open. They're humble enough to take lessons from anyone in any situation. Meanwhile, unsuccessful people, they shut themselves off. They stop listening. They assume they know enough already. But the truth is, the moment you stop being teachable, you stop growing. And when growth stops, something deeper starts to fade. Because in life, if you're not growing, you're slowly dying, creatively, emotionally, spiritually. I'll never forget what one of my mentors, Mr. Schoaf, told me, a lesson that changed my life forever. He said, Jim, if you want to be wealthy and happy, learn this lesson well. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. At first, I didn't quite understand what he meant. I was already working hard. Early mornings, long hours. But eventually it clicked. Your job and your income are simply reflections of who you are. They expand only as you expand. So if you want more, become more. That realization sparked a new habit. I began dedicating at least 30 minutes a day to personal growth. Reading, listening, studying, reflecting, every day without fail. And slowly, everything began to shift. I started to attract better opportunities. I began solving problems faster, more creatively. I saw potential where before I had only seen obstacles. It was like a new lens had been placed over my eyes. Here's what I learned. If you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. That's one of the most important discoveries of my life. Now, let's talk about another crucial part of education, one that most people try to avoid: learning from failure. Most people treat failure like a disease, something to be feared, dodged, or denied. But failure isn't the enemy, it's a teacher. It's a form of education that reveals what doesn't work, so you can find out what does. Think about Thomas Edison. Before inventing the light bulb, he failed more than 10,000 times. But when asked about those so-called failures, he simply said, "I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways that didn't work." Now that's perspective. That's resilience. That's growth. If you're not failing from time to time, you're not stretching yourself. You're not exploring new territory. You're playing it safe. And in today's fast-changing world, playing it safe might actually be the riskiest thing you can do. And remember this: the person who doesn't read is no better off than the person who can't. Both are stuck. Both are limited, not by the world, but by the choice not to learn. Let me ask you a question. What's the best time to plant a tree? The answer, of course, is 20 years ago. But what's the second best time? Right now. The same is absolutely true when it comes to your education. The best time to start investing in your mind and your growth may have been years ago, but the next best time is today, this very moment. And here's something both surprising and a little sad. Most people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their education. Isn't that amazing? They'll spend weeks researching destinations, deciding what to pack, what excursions to take, and where to stay. Yet those same people rarely take 10 minutes to think about which books to read, which seminars to attend, or how they'll develop their minds and character over the coming year. Then they wonder why their life isn't progressing, why they feel stuck, why things don't seem to work out. But let me tell you the truth. It's not bad luck. It's not the system. It's because they haven't learned enough yet to make life work at a higher level. Here's a powerful idea that can change everything. Turn your car into a university on wheels. The average American spends somewhere between 500 to 1,000 hours a year driving. That's the equivalent of 12 to 25 full-time work weeks. Just imagine. What if, instead of listening to the same playlists or morning news every day, you use that time to feed your mind with educational content? If you did that consistently for just a few years, you could earn the equivalent of a PhD in your field while driving. That's not theory. I've seen it happen. I've known people who completely transformed their income, their mindset, and their lives just by applying this one strategy. They stopped wasting time on autopilot and started investing it. They swapped noise for knowledge, and the results were dramatic. Because here's the truth: you can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. And your direction, over time, is what determines your destination. Small, intentional changes in your daily education habits can lead to massive breakthroughs in your life if you stay consistent. Let me share something even more specific. There are 3 kinds of education you need to win in life. The first is formal education. Yes, it matters. Go as far as you can. Get the degree, earn the certification, build that foundation. But understand this: the moment you graduate, your formal education is already beginning to expire. In today's world, information is evolving faster than ever. What you learned in school won't carry you for life anymore. That's why you can't stop there. The second type is professional education. This is the specialized knowledge for your specific field or industry. If you want to be the best at what you do, become the most informed person in your company about your role. Read trade journals. Attends conférences. Seek out the experts. Ask questions. Build your expertise until you are a master of your craft. But there's a third type of education, and this is the one most people completely overlook: self-development education. This is the education that goes beyond skills and titles. It's about learning how to communicate more effectively, understand psychology, lead with vision, build lasting relationships, manage your money, care for your health, raise a family, and connect to something bigger than yourself. It's about becoming a complete, well-rounded, empowered human being, not just a high-functioning employee or technician. And here's what's fascinating. Many people spend years, sometimes decades, becoming great at their profession. They devote countless hours to mastering their craft, improving their technical abilities, and staying up to date in their field. But at the same time, they invest almost no time learning how to communicate clearly, manage their finances wisely, raise their children with intention, or build deep, meaningful relationships. And then they wonder why their life feels out of balance. Why success in one area is often overshadowed by chaos or emptiness in another. Here's something powerful to consider. The books you read and the content you listen to, these are part of your mental diet. Just as you'd never go 30 days without food for your body, you shouldn't go 30 days without food for your mind. Your mind, just like your body, needs nourishment, but not just any nourishment, the right kind. Because just as you can poison your body with unhealthy food, you can poison your mind with the wrong content. Garbage in, garbage out. If you fill your thoughts with violence, negativity, gossip, and cynicism, don't be shocked when your life begins to reflect those very things. Your thinking becomes polluted and your decisions follow suit. But fill your mind with wisdom, inspiration, and knowledge, and everything changes. Your thoughts sharpen. Your emotional resilience grows. Your ability to make powerful decisions increases. And over time, your entire life begins to rise to the level of your thinking. Some people say, I just don't have time to read. But is that really true? The average American watches more than 4 hours of television a day. That's 1,460 hours a year. Over the course of 5 years, that's 7,300 hours. Let that sink in for a moment. Do you realize how many books you could read in that time? Hundreds, maybe even thousands. You could become an expert in multiple subjects. You could master the principles of business, health, communication, leadership, simply by using time you're probably already spending in front of a screen. So the issue isn't having time. It's making time. We all get the same 24 hours each day. The difference lies in how we choose to spend or invest those hours. And I use the word invest on purpose, because that's exactly what it is. Every minute you dedicate to educating yourself compounds over time. It pays dividends in the form of clarity, confidence, income, fulfillment, and opportunity for the rest of your life. Now here's another principle that's just as important. Learn from the best. Why spend years struggling to figure things out by trial and error when you can learn from people who've already mastered what you're trying to achieve? If you want to succeed in business, study successful business leaders. If you want to build a great marriage, study couples who've created strong, loving partnerships. If you want to be healthy and energetic, study those who live that lifestyle every day. Success leaves clues, but you have to be paying attention. You have to look for those clues intentionally. You have to study, observe, absorb, reflect. That's what real education is. Not just memorizing facts or passing exams, but gaining deep understanding, useful insight, and practical wisdom you can apply to your life right now. Principles, patterns, habits. These are the tools that can shape your entire life, if you're willing to study them and apply what you learn. Now, I want to share with you a concept that completely transformed how I viewed education. It's called the compound effect. You may have heard of compound interest in finance. The idea that small amounts of money, invested consistently over time, can grow into something massive. Well, compound learning works the same way. A small amount of learning each day, applied with consistency, can lead to extraordinary results over time. Let's make this practical. Imagine if you read just 10 pages of a great book every day. That's about 15 to 20 minutes. Not much, right? But over the course of a year, that adds up to 3,650 pages, the equivalent of around 12 full-length books. Now stretch that out over 5 years. That's 60 books. 10 years. You've read 120 books. Can you even imagine how different your life could look after consuming 120 books focused on your field, your goals, or your personal development? You would become one of the most knowledgeable people in your industry. Your insights would carry weight. Your problem-solving ability would sharpen. People would begin seeking out your opinion, your advice, your leadership. And yes, your income would likely multiply several times over. All of that from just 15 to 20 minutes of focused reading per day. That's the power of the compound effect when applied to education. But, and this is key, it only works if you're consistent. Reading one book won't change your life. Just like going to the gym once won't get you in shape. It's the daily discipline, the steady investment in yourself over time, that leads to lasting transformation. And that's where most people fall short. They get excited in the beginning. They go out and buy a stack of books, sign up for online courses, maybe even rearrange their schedule for a few days. But after the initial burst of enthusiasm fades, so does their effort. They don't follow through consistently, day by day, week by week, month after month. And because of that, they miss out on one of the greatest miracles available to us, compound learning. Here's something I want you to remember. Discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. The daily habit of feeding your mind doesn't feel like a burden. It's light. It's manageable. But the regret of never reaching your potential, of realizing you could have been more, done more, lived more, that's a weight that's hard to carry later in life. And here's another important truth. Education doesn't just increase your income. It expands your entire life. It makes you a more interesting person. It gives you depth, perspective, stories to share, and ideas worth passing on. It opens doors, not just in business, but in relationships, in purpose, in the way you see the world. It introduces you to people and philosophies that can change your perspective and maybe even change your destiny. Over the years, I've met many people who are financially wealthy, but deeply unfulfilled. You know why? Because they focused all their energy on making money, while neglecting to educate themselves about life, meaning, and relationships. They climbed the ladder of success only to find it leaning against the wrong wall. Real education isn't just about increasing your earning capacity. It's about expanding your capacity for joy, for connection, for contribution, for living a meaningful life. So now, let's make this practical. Let me give you some specific strategies for how to start educating yourself daily. Start by getting clear on your goals. What do you really want to achieve? Then ask yourself, what kind of knowledge will help you get there? Don't just read randomly or consume information passively. Be intentional. If you want to start a business, focus your reading on entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership. If you want to improve your relationship, study communication, emotional intelligence, and partnership dynamics. Learning without direction is like sailing without a compass. You might be moving, but are you really getting closer to your destination? Second, create a daily learning ritual. Maybe you choose to read for 30 minutes each morning before your day begins. Maybe you turn your commute into classroom time by listening to educational audio. Or perhaps you watch a course or instructional video while exercising. Whatever your schedule looks like, the key is to make it non-negotiable. A part of your day that's as essential as eating or brushing your teeth. Third, take notes. Don't just passively absorb information. Engage with it. Write down key ideas, powerful quotes, and most importantly, ask yourself, how can I apply this to my life? That's where real growth happens. It's not in the learning alone, it's in the application. Fourth, find learning partners. Join a book club. Seek out a mentor. Start a mastermind group. Learning in isolation is good, but learning in community is powerful. Other people's questions spark new insights. Their accountability keeps you showing up. Their perspective helps you think in ways you never would on your own. Fifth, teach what you learn. That's one of the fastest and most powerful ways to reinforce your knowledge. When you explain something to someone else, whether it's your spouse, your friend, a coworker, or an online audience, it forces you to process the material more deeply. Share what you're learning. Start a blog, a podcast, or just a conversation. Because the teacher always ends up learning more than the student. Sixth, review regularly. Don't let good ideas fade. Repetition locks knowledge into your long-term memory. Make it a habit to revisit your notes, reread important chapters, and reflect on the most valuable lessons. Repetition is the mother of skill, and mastery is built on the things we choose to remember and apply over and over again. Now, let's address something I hear far too often. I'm too old to start learning new things. That's simply not true. In fact, it's one of the biggest lies people tell themselves. Think about this. Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s. Grandma Moses began painting in her 70s. Ray Kroc built McDonald's into a global empire after the age of 50. It's not your age that holds you back, it's your attitude. If you believe you're too old to learn, then that belief will limit you. But if you believe there's always more to learn, more to grow into, more to experience, then your learning journey can begin today. Another excuse I often hear is this: I wasn't good at school, so education isn't for me. But here's what most people miss. Self-directed learning as an adult is nothing like classroom learning as a child. There are no tests, no grades, no one forcing you to memorize dates or formulas. As an adult, you get to learn what you want at your pace in a way that fits your life and goals. Some of the most dedicated learners I've ever met did poorly in traditional school systems. But once they discovered the power of learning for personal growth, for a better life, not just a better report card, they became unstoppable. And here's the key to remember: one of the most dangerous people you'll ever meet, in business, in politics, or in life, is the one who believes they already know it all. The moment someone thinks they've arrived, that there's nothing more to learn, is the moment they begin to fall behind. Why? Because the world is changing fast. Too fast for any of us to sit still on yesterday's knowledge. The strategies, skills, and thinking that got you here won't necessarily take you where you want to go next. What worked last year might not work this year. What made you valuable before could become outdated tomorrow. That's why continuous education is no longer optional. It's essential. Not just for growth, but for survival in a rapidly evolving world. But more than that, education isn't just about keeping up, it's about thriving. It's about living a life of expanding awareness, possibilities, and contribution. Every book you read, every course you complete, every conversation with a knowledgeable person, it opens a door. It unlocks opportunity. It reveals new paths you didn't even know existed. You begin to see not only where you are, but where you could be. Having spoken to audiences around the world, hundreds of thousands of people from every walk of life, I've noticed something fascinating. You can often predict someone's future just by looking at their bookshelf. Show me what you're reading now, and I can make a good guess where you'll be 5 years from today. Sadly, some people read nutrition labels more carefully than they choose the books they read. They obsess over what goes into their stomach, but give little thought to what goes into their mind. But here's the truth. What you feed your mind matters even more than what you feed your body. Because your mind controls everything else. Your decisions, your emotions, your creativity, your relationships, your financial well-being. They all flow from the quality of your thinking. And your thinking is shaped by what you learn. Now, here's another powerful truth. You don't have to learn everything the hard way. You don't have to make every mistake yourself. Life is too short to stumble blindly through every lesson. That's the beauty of education. You can learn through other people's experiences. Books, courses, mentors. These are tools that compress decades of trial and error into hours of insight. 1 hour with the right mentor can save you 10 years of struggle. One book can offer a single idea that shifts the entire direction of your career. One seminar can unlock a strategy that doubles your income or transforms your mindset forever. That's the leverage education gives you. It multiplies your results. It accelerates your progress. I often reflect on how radically my own life changed because of just a few key books I read in my 20s. If I hadn't picked them up, hadn't committed to reading them deeply, where would I be now? Honestly, I'd probably still be struggling. Still wondering why success came easily to others, but remained out of reach for me. Those books, and the many that followed, did far more than provide me with information. They sparked a transformation. They reshaped the way I thought, how I approached decisions, how I responded to challenges, and how I saw both problems and possibilities. They even changed how I connected with people around me. In short, they changed who I was at the core. And when you change who you are, you naturally change what becomes possible for you. That's the real magic of education. It's not just about gathering facts. It's about the person you become in the process of learning and growing. Now, let me share something else I've found deeply fascinating: the strong connection between education and income. Countless studies show that the more educated someone is, the more they tend to earn. But here's what's really interesting. This relationship isn't limited to formal education. It holds true, and sometimes even more strongly, for self-education. Why is that? because self-education is often laser-focused. It's intentional, practical, and highly relevant to your unique needs and goals. Unlike traditional schooling, which may end in your early 20s, self-education continues for a lifetime. And the return on investment? Often much greater. I've personally met individuals who never completed high school, but are now self-made millionaires. What do they do differently? They made a decision to become lifelong learners. They read constantly. They invest in seminars. They seek out mentors. They never stop improving. They're always evolving, and their income reflects that dedication. But let me make something very clear. Education isn't only about increasing your income. That's just one benefit. Real education is about enriching your entire life. It shapes how you communicate, how you make choices, and how you perceive the world. It deepens your conversations, sharpens your thinking, and strengthens your emotional intelligence. It helps you build stronger relationships. It makes you a better partner, a more thoughtful parent, a more engaged friend, and even a more responsible citizen. In every way, education elevates not just your standard of living, but your standard of life. And at the end of the day, isn't that what truly winning in life is all about? It's not about collecting more stuff, it's about becoming more aware, more skilled, more compassionate, more alive. Let me leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It's one I've lived by for years. It goes like this: if you want to have more, you have to become more. And becoming more starts with what you choose to learn next. Success isn't something you chase down. It's something you naturally attract by becoming the kind of person success is drawn to. And how do you become that person? Through education, through intentional growth, through daily development. Now, let's address a common excuse I hear far too often. I don't have the money to invest in education. But let's pause for a moment. Can you afford $1? That's roughly the cost to check out a book at your local library. How about $5? That's often all it takes to buy a used book online. The idea that education must be expensive is a myth. Some of the most life-changing books I've ever read cost less than a meal at a fast food restaurant. Yet the return on investment has been enormous. Even when it comes to bigger expenses like online courses, seminars, or coaching programs, you have to ask yourself a deeper question. What's the cost of not getting that education? What opportunities will pass you by? What costly mistakes will you make? What personal growth will be left unrealized? When you start to think in terms of long-term gain versus short-term cost, you begin to understand that not investing in your education is the most expensive decision of all. Ignorance is far more costly than learning. But let's take this further. There's another essential aspect of education we need to talk about: the education that comes from experience. Reading books is incredibly valuable, but it's not enough. Knowledge only becomes meaningful when it's applied, and that's where so many people fall short. They become lifelong learners in theory, but not in practice. They consume book after book, attend workshop after workshop, but never take action. That isn't education. That's entertainment. Real education demands engagement. It means you must take what you learn and put it to the test in real life. Try it. Fail. Adjust. Try again. That's the discipline of application. Because the truth is, knowledge by itself isn't power. Knowledge is only potential power. The actual power comes when you apply what you know consistently and effectively. It's not the books you read that will change your life. It's the books you apply. So if you're serious about personal growth, then make this commitment. Don't just collect information. Turn it into transformation. Be more than a consumer of ideas. Be a creator of results. Now, let me introduce you to a powerful concept I call the 5-year study program. Imagine this. What if you dedicated the next 5 years of your life to mastering your craft? What if you read everything you could find on your field, attended every seminar you could afford, found mentors to guide you, and relentlessly practiced your skills while applying everything you learned? Where would you be 5 years from now? I'll tell you where. You'd be in the top 5% of your field. Your income would likely double, maybe even triple. Your professional opportunities would multiply. And perhaps most importantly, your contribution, what you bring to the world, would grow beyond what you ever imagined possible. 5 years will pass no matter what you do. The real question is, when those 5 years have come and gone, where will you be? Will you find yourself in the exact same position, with the same income, the same skills, the same mindset? Or will you be someone entirely different, transformed, because you chose to invest in your education and personal growth? That choice is entirely yours to make, but the consequences of that decision are anything but small. They ripple through every area of your life: your career, your finances, your relationships, your self-worth. Those 5 years are not just time, they are opportunity. And how you use them will determine the kind of future you create. Now, here's something fascinating that most people overlook: the direct connection between education and confidence. The more you know, the more confident you become. Not arrogant, but genuinely self-assured. There's a quiet strength that comes from knowing you've put in the work, from being prepared. That kind of confidence doesn't just help you perform better, it attracts people to you. Think about it. We're naturally drawn to confident individuals. We want to do business with them, collaborate with them, learn from them. Confidence is magnetic. It opens doors, builds trust, and creates momentum. And one of the fastest, most reliable ways to build confidence is to educate yourself. Learn something new, improve a skill, dive deeper into your area of expertise. Because as your competence grows, your confidence will rise with it. I've seen it time and time again. Someone steps into a new career or launches a business and feels overwhelmed, even unsure of themselves. But then they start reading, studying, practicing, investing in their growth. Slowly but surely, their confidence begins to bloom. And once their confidence shows up, success is not far behind. You can't outperform your self-image. That's a truth many people never fully grasp. If deep down you don't believe you're capable, worthy, or valuable, that belief will quietly limit your results. But here's the good news. Education is one of the most effective ways to elevate how you see yourself. As you grow in knowledge, you begin to see yourself differently. You start to recognize your potential. Let me leave you with one more essential insight. Learn from both success and failure. Every experience has something to teach you. If you're paying attention, learn from failures, both your own and those of others. Just as success leaves behind a trail of clues, failure does too. In fact, some of the most profound lessons you'll ever gain come from studying what didn't work and understanding why. Dive into the biographies of successful individuals, not only to be inspired by their triumphs, but to carefully observe their missteps. What did they learn? How did they respond? What would they do differently if given the chance? Take time to study failed businesses and projects. Analyze your own setbacks, not with regret, but with curiosity. What messages were hidden in the disappointment? This kind of education through failure, can save you an extraordinary amount of time, energy, money, and even heartache. It's a shortcut to wisdom, helping you bypass traps that have ensnared others and guiding you more directly toward your goals. Now, let's explore something just as vital: the education of character. Knowledge and skills are essential, but they must be anchored by traits like integrity, discipline, perseverance, and courage. These aren't just virtues, they're foundations. And like any area of growth, they can be studied, practiced, and strengthened. Read the life stories of individuals who embodied these qualities. Study timeless wisdom traditions that have shaped human character for generations. Surround yourself with mentors who live out the values you admire most. Because at the end of the day, who you are will always matter more than what you know. Your character is the filter through which all your knowledge flows. It determines whether your skills will be used for positive impact or personal gain, whether you'll stay the course or give up when the going gets tough. That's why your daily commitment to education must also include developing your character. It's the invisible force that touches every aspect of your life: your career, your relationships, your reputation, and the legacy you leave behind. Now, let's return to where this all began: the daily decision to educate yourself. This isn't a one-time promise. It's a lifelong practice. Every single morning, you have a choice. Will you invest in your growth today? Will you choose to learn something new, to challenge yourself, to become even 1% better than you were yesterday? That choice, small as it may seem, compounds over time, but must be intentional. Don't leave it to chance or emotion. Put it on your schedule, just like you would any important appointment. Protect that time. Treat it as sacred. Because here's the truth. Everything else in your life flows from this one habit. Everything in your life. Your income, your relationships, your health, your contribution is a direct reflection of who you are. These outcomes are shaped by your knowledge, your habits, your skills, and most importantly, your character. When you transform yourself through education, you begin to transform every aspect of your life. But when you neglect your education, you unintentionally place limits on what's possible for you. So today, I challenge you to make a bold and lasting commitment. Educate yourself daily, not just once in a while, not only when it's convenient, but every single day. Make it as routine and necessary as eating, breathing, or sleeping. Feed your mind just as intentionally as you feed your body. Read insightful books, listen to empowering audio programs, attend meaningful seminars, and seek out mentors who challenge and inspire you. More than that, put your learning into action. Apply what you learn, share what you know with others, and take time to revisit and reinforce key ideas. Let this be a lifelong journey, not a quick fix, not a side hobby, but a core part of who you are. And if you do this consistently, something amazing will happen. 5 years from now, you may look back and barely recognize your life. Your income may have doubled or tripled. New doors and opportunities will have opened. Your relationships will be stronger, your influence will be deeper, and your sense of purpose and joy will be greater than ever before. That's what it truly means to win in life. And it all begins with one core decision. I will educate myself daily. I will never stop learning, never stop growing, and never stop becoming the best version of me. So make that decision today. Don't wait for some perfect moment. It doesn't exist. Don't wait until you have more money. Education brings you more value, which leads to more income. Don't wait until you have more time. Prioritize your growth, and you'll create the time. Start now, even if it's small. Read just a few pages of a great book. Listen to 15 minutes of something educational. Have one meaningful conversation with someone who can stretch your thinking. Start where you are, use what you have, and take the first step forward. Then keep stepping. Let this day be the beginning of your lifelong journey of education and self-development. Because when you commit to educating yourself daily, you commit to winning in life. And that is the greatest victory of all. Wishing you health, happiness, and endless growth. Don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more inspiration and practical wisdom on your journey.